Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another one of my 75 videos for the 75 days left of before Kingdom Hearts drops. I'll think of a better name for all that, but good evening, good morning, or good afternoon, whatever time of day it is for you when you're watching this video. I think I'm wrong about the player. I don't know who the player is. The reason I was suggesting that it might be Vin is because we don't know who the player is, and based off of what we see, what's been shown to us, he is a late addition to that world. Because as I understand it, and I'm sure someone could correct me on this, he was not a part of Union Cross before it became Unchained Key. And like I said, someone can correct me on that, but yeah. If he was, then that kind of puts that entire theory debunked immediately. But there may be more to it. I think the identity of the player is important, but it's not as important as the possibility that the Puppet Project has another active member, and it has been for quite some time. Now, if you're wondering what I'm talking about, I don't think the Kingdom Hearts timeline is as simple as it's been made out to be. I think the original time frame for the Kingdom Hearts is probably several hundred years, not just a couple of decades. Because if we assume, going back to Xehanort and Ericus's chess game, that they grew up from maybe their early teens into adulthood, Ericus only looking like he's in his maybe late 40s, early 50s, toned as hell, but still nonetheless. And Xehanort looking like he's might be pushing 70. But in the trailers, they show that they're approximately the same age. So you kind of have the light side versus the dark side showing up again. But you know what? That's beside the point. That's beside the point. Let's put Shen off over there. That's not important. So, there's two possibilities to this. The timeline is either greater or shorter than most people expect it to be. I think the most common answer I see is 100 years. I think that's way too short. So the honest question is, how old is Vin really? Honest question. The reason why is, let's say I'm completely mistaken about Vin being in Union Cross before the reboot, the soft reboot of the world, where they were all transported into a dream realm, blah, 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 blah. Let's put that off into a dream world, sorry. Let's push that off to the side because that's half important. The question is, if Vin was transported into a dream world and then pulled back out, he couldn't possibly be the player. And you should have caught what I just said. So the catch is, and this might be, in my Twitter post I pointed it out, I think I stumbled onto something that I probably wasn't supposed to know, and might actually get Square Enix pissed off at me, but it's kind of far out there. There's not a lot of supporting evidence for it. I think Xehanort found the Book of Prophecies. Straight up. No joke. I'm serious. And in the Book of Prophecies, it tells where the dream world is, or in fact is the dream world. Therefore, the Cherith, the Dark Cherith, and all of that exists within the pages of that book, that tome. And we're assuming it's only one volume with hundreds to thousands of pages. Maybe it's magical in the way that it presents its information. Maybe it's mundane. We don't know, and that's not important. But if the Masters of Masters Book of Prophecies is indeed the data text, essentially, Kind of how in Dream Recoded they took the journals, made them digital, they got sucked into the pages, so forth and so on. I'm thinking, and this is something that popped into my head like just out of nowhere, and I was like, please don't tell me I'm right about this, because if not, I'm going to spoil a whole bunch. Vin, as well as Xion, are from that world, and they are the hearts of those people put into puppet bodies. Ventus, being a Keyblade master, because I do think he's a master at this point. With this theory, mind you, he is a master. Him and the other second foretellers, well, assumed second foretellers. Let's be straight there, because we have no idea how long the Master of Masters has been around, or how long even Daybreak has been around. Ventus, all the foretellers, all the dandelions, they got put into books. Or at least one volume that is dedicated to just that realm, just that world. And Xehanort found it, and took someone who was unremarkable, Xion, and did a whole bunch of magic-y hooju-booju-boo-baba-boo-baba. I don't do technobabble very well, if you can't tell. Put her into a puppet's body, and tried to integrate the memories of Roxas in with her to make her a Keyblade wielder as a puppet. Ventus was also pulled out, and even though they kind of say that essentially the organization hadn't begun yet, you know that Xehanort has run into Xigbar and in a lot of the other Organization 13 members that we bump into in Kingdom Hearts 2 and Kill, or in, not Birth by Sleep, but Chain of Memories. So we know he at least knows of these people during that time frame. It does not explain if he knew them beforehand, or if his projects had already begun. Specifically the Puppet Program. And I know it probably has a more appropriate name, but that's what I'm calling it, the Puppet Program. So, let's see. I'm going to do this live right now. Find out how old. Sorry, I have a really good microphone. Vexen. Doesn't say. But Vexen looks to be older than the rest. So whereas Lee and where Lee and Issa might be in their mid to late teens, in Kingdom Hearts 2 he looks like he might be in his 30s. Which would mean he was actually working as he could have been working as a scientist in that lab at that time, and already working on the puppet project even before Terranort pops out to start running stuff further. Which could mean that Ventus, because we don't know how long he's actually at the land of departure, we assume around 5 years. So if we assume that maybe work laws are a little bit different in this place, we can assume that it's possible that he might just have been a really gifted young scientist, and he might have been working with Ansem the Wise long beforehand. And that puts a lot of things in a twist, because if he's already working on the puppet project, let's assume 5 years. 5 years, he makes Ventus, the Ventus model. Ventus is, his data is transferred from the sleeping world into the puppet. And he assumes that yes, he's always been born, he has memories of his parents, and to him, Daybreak Town would look like probably almost anywhere else. That is where a lot of this is hinging on. Whether or not he's the player doesn't matter at this point. The player could quite possibly be Xehanort. It's possible, but I'm not worried about that. I think, specifically, Ventus is literally from the time of the first Keyblade War. He's been in the sleeping world for a very long time. He was pulled out by Xehanort. When he was pulled out by Xehanort, he lost a lot of his older memories, but he was still a Keyblade master, so he still retained memories on how to do that. At the end of Birth by Sleep, when he goes comatose, and his heart joins with Sora's to heal, that is something that they have to go back into a sleeping world, which would be Ven's heart at this point, or a part of Sora's heart that is sleeping because of Ven. Yeah. I'll argue that dream world is actually Sora's heart, and the reason he's collecting his bodies is to keep himself collected, because you're not supposed to dive to your heart more than once. But that's beside the point. That's hypothetical. That's what I'm thinking. But with that said, I think that's what's going on. That's the only thing that makes sense on why Ven would be from the first Keyblade War. For it to have been 40 years since Ericus and Xehanort were young students, and before Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep, Ven was Ven was in that realm, that world, not knowing the difference, and probably keeping on repeating basically the months leading up to the Keyblade War over and over again, because they don't know any better. The book resets their memory back to the first page, and I'm assuming it's in a book, by the way, but it resets back to the first page, plays out to the end, resets back to the first page. Which in that case, he would have no memory of what's actually going on with this. It would only be this one situation. And I think that's where the key is. Not that the CHI key, but that the X key. But you know what I mean. You know what I mean. The key of this actually, I think, comes down to that one point. Ventus could be from a sleeping book world. That's the reason it was so important for Riku and Sora to figure out how to awaken hearts, because that's what they have to do. With that said, I think that's where we're at. I think that's exactly what I think that's exactly what's happened. Now, whether or not Xehanort still has the book, different question. Because he could have lost it. I mean, he was a traveler. He could have maybe not realized the value. It could have been stolen. It could have been destroyed, possibly. He could have destroyed it himself as a way of making sure no one else attempts to do this project, because he still wants to see what's going on. So there's a lot there that can happen, and I think that's a big factor. I think this sleeping world is going to be not just a small impact. It might be a huge impact. And wow. That leads to a lot of questions. I mean, it's very well possible that Daybreak Town is just a sleeping world. And what we call the Keyblade graveyard is indeed that place. And because of that, whenever we see him pulling things up, he's not really manifesting the power to raise a building. All he's doing is waking it up. That way it rises back to the surface. Wow, that's... Huh. That could be it. Second hypothesis of this video, Daybreak Town smothered itself after it was turned into a sleeping world. And everyone just doesn't know any better because too much time has passed for them to know what's actually there. Xehanort knows because he's read the book, and I suspect he's pulled a couple people, and maybe more, out of that book. And the other question is, who is Ansem the Wise? Has there been a true change of heart? I might talk about that tomorrow. First morning video before I even go to bed, record something about that. I have to mull that one over. But yeah, that's the theory for today. The theory is that Ventus is probably several hundred years old, been living in a sleeping world. That's the reason he doesn't have it. His body really hasn't aged. And it's the reason his body can be sustained without any type of life or food or water, because it is just a puppet with a heart from a boy named Ventus put inside of it. That's a crazy thought to think about if you really want to analyze it. But this is where I'm going to sign off. I'm going to do the traditional thing that all other YouTubers do. Like, follow, subscribe. I've been using my Twitch more often recently. Destiny 2 has been my game of choice, and that's just until I run out of stuff to do in Forsaken, and I get kicked from this clan. I do have a Patreon. Any donations to Patreon goes to improving the quality of my cameras, my equipment. Right now I'm working on getting a new a capture card. Hopefully I can save up the money for an Elgato. That way I can start just direct capturing everything to my computer instead of going through PlayStation service, which unfortunately will block scenes. And that to me is so annoying. So annoying. And I do have a Twitter. If you check it for updates, you'll commonly see that I've been sticking to my gaming and announcing when I go live. Supporting a couple of friends of mine, like Caffeinated Conquest. So, do me a favor, check out those things, send some views my way. Subscribe. That lets me know you're liking the content. Encourage your friends to listen to my videos, please. I'm trying here. But I'm going to say goodnight. You all have a great morning, afternoon, or night, depending on what time of day it is that you watch it. And may joy be to you all.